Hello and welcome back to AWS On Air, the official live streaming track here at reInvent 2020. We are back again with one of the recurring favorites here, and that is Voice of the Customer. I am joined today by Denise Murphy, Head of Retail Distribution Channel Technology Solutions at the Vanguard Group, and we're going to have a very exciting conversation today. Denise, thanks so much for taking the time out.
Thank you, Nick. How's it going today?
Oh, it's going well, and it'll be even better after we get to jump into our conversation. So I know we only have about 20 minutes, but I think there's more than enough time to get through some of the exciting stuff that you and your team are working on over at Vanguard.
Yes, I totally agree.
Awesome. So you and I had a little bit of a conversation backstage leading up to this, and I know that there are lots of very exciting machine learning happenings over at your company. We'll talk about the journey. We'll talk about where you're at today. But before we get into all of that, why don't we open up a bit more broadly? Why don't you tell us a little bit about Vanguard, maybe the team that you're on, and some context for folks that may not be too familiar?
Okay, so I'll do a little research background on Vanguard. Vanguard's a mutual fund company. We have approximately about $6.2 trillion under assets, and it has a bunch of different components. I'll speak to the one that I work in, the retail side. So that is individuals like you and I. We have about 8 million plus shareholders that come to Vanguard and invest their money here at Vanguard for their retirement or individual investments. It's mostly digital. We have no brick and mortar. And so obviously our website and our phone channels and all digital channels are very important to us so that our clients have a great experience when they come to invest in our mutual funds and our ETFs or our brokerage assets.
Exactly, and we're talking some big numbers here, right? Anytime we hear the word trillion with a T, and you said in the millions of customers, we're talking about a large scale here. Whether this would be physical or digital, this is the management of any systems that handle that amount of data. Is certainly a large one, and I'd imagine that you have a very prominent role in the digital infrastructure for the retail side here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that digital infrastructure correlates to those customers and to that line of business?
Well, one of our tenants has been for the last few years is to definitely go cloud first. So, in many of our digital channels, and especially the ones that I support, telephony, certain e commerce channels, and marketing channels, it's a lot of new software that are, I would say, infrastructure that we've been working with AWS and analytics to get it all out in the cloud. About 4 years ago, we started with the analytics product. And the goal that's been an exciting journey. About 4.5 years ago, I don't think any of us even knew what the cloud really was. We worked very closely with AWS and a gold partner that AWS directed to us to create the architecture. And we have a really robust data lake so that our business can leverage that data lake to do all sorts of analysis for our clients, on our clients, to make sure they have a great experience. And you see it now leading into our cloud telephony channel that I'm also responsible for. And using Lex, using Comprehend, we have just started that. It's been a really exciting journey.
Journey is the key word here, right? These systems, especially at the scale that you mentioned, certainly don't build themselves overnight. You talk to the fact that just a few years ago, many of your engineers or your platforms may not have been cloud based at all. Certainly, this was exactly that, a journey. Why don't you walk us through what it looked like to arrive at where you're at today, and we can dive deeper on some of the nuts and bolts of the modern day machine learning systems. But a lot of customers see the destination, but sort of the how is very important, right? How you take these incremental steps to be able to get to the successful position that Vanguard is in today. What can you share about how the steps that were taken in the journey to being cloud native?
Sure. I think what really worked for us is if you think back about 4.5 years ago, Vanguard was sort of saying, hey, maybe we should go into IDAA, IBM DB2 platform to make our data move faster. And then it was, hey, we're going to go to the private cloud. Our CTO was researching what should we really do. And finally, it was, we should go public cloud, and we started a relationship with AWS. And I remember I had analytics, and it was like, okay. Uh, Biggest mistake is I know what our data warehouse looks like right now. Okay, that's how we'll build our retail data lake. And remember, we're getting information from all channels across our retail platforms digitally, and we want to put it out into AWS. Like I mentioned before, the best advice I got was you don't know what you don't know. Talk to AWS, get them a gold partner, work with them to help you build your architecture. That was invaluable advice. And we did that, and we kept working with them and our AWS partners to say, okay, how's this infrastructure for our platform? Do you agree with it? Because they had the experience. And then B, build it use case by use case. Um, we were used to a little bit of more of the old fashioned way to build things. Let me have all the requirements. What do you want? That doesn't work. It really didn't work for us. And instead of now trying to do all the analysis of what it would look like, it was let's get a solid foundation. And our first use case was for regulatory and compliance reporting to make sure that our business could self-provision their regulatory and compliance reports for FINRA, for other regulatory agencies. And we built it use case by use case. What did that allow us to do? Go fast, business value at startup speed, do it in an agile way, and learn. The whole company was learning the cloud. If we sat back and said, oh, we know it all, let's build it, and it kept evolving and changing, and no, use this AWS tool, use that AWS tool, but it worked because the foundation was solid. That solid architecture was there for us.
That's amazing. There are so many lessons to unpack there. You know, the first of which was the easiest way to get to cloud, at least from what it sounded like, was lifting and shifting of certain workloads. But then over time, deeply understanding that, hey, you know, there are some more tools in the toolkit here using AWS to be able to build and restructure our architecture in a more optimal way, whether it's a cost perspective, a performance perspective. And to dovetail nicely off of that, you know, you're not in that journey alone. You mentioned, you know, talking through that partnership with AWS, probably working with your account team, solutions architects, and so on, such that you didn't have to figure this all out on your own. You know, a lot of the solutions architects internally are extremely well versed in these services and solving these particular problems, and helped you sort of hit the ground running with a very confident plan, so that you didn't have to do a bunch of experiments to learn the lessons that may have already been known to many folks out there. So that's immensely exciting. And then, you know, to your point, talking about this organizational mind shift change, right? This is by, you know, whether it's a cell-based architecture and microservice architecture, really enabling your teams and builders to build digestible bits of a superset of features, enables you to go to market faster, right? You don't have to have this long development and deployment cycle that's months long or weeks long. You can have the, you know, the deliver value quicker to your customers. So much there in such a a short recap. And, you know, I know that this is not your first rodeo here at reInvent. You've been back, I think it's your fourth year now. I don't remember if you
Fourth
mentioned that or
year.
not.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, each and every year, I imagine you're going back to work with more and more services, more ideas for how to empower your builders, and certainly, especially when it comes to things like compliance, things that are difficult problems to solve. So I'm happy to be able to um, be one of the folks that helps to reveal some of those services that hopefully make you and your team's lives a lot easier.
I think it's really a great lesson learned, and obviously muscle memory takes some time. But as AWS introduces new services, you hear it. Like my first, I think I mentioned to you before, my first reInvent, it was like, what? You know, my head was spinning, all the acronyms. And I was joking with you guys. As a female, it's one of the first conferences I was able to get right into the restroom, no problem. The guy restroom line was really long. So it's really evolved, but getting our, I got my certification and a lot of my leaders did cloud practitioner. And then that really helped our developers get the more technical certifications. The second time I went to reInvent, and the third, and working on my another certification, you really start to get it and understand it. And then when you work with your team, an X-ray is going to be a perfect example. Transcribe. We get all excited, and your AWS team, they have a bunch of meetings with us, learning meetings. We get it, and the developers just jump on it. An example would be when we're watching our cloud systems run, we have Splunk, we're watching it all. And we're working with our account team, and they're like, hey, we have X-ray. A couple of our developers just, they jump on it instantly. We're like, well, let's get smart on that. And we have implemented it into almost all my products now. So we don't have to wait for a Splunk to get downloaded into or go into, it refreshes on us sometimes. X-rays right there showing us what we want to do. And you just learn so many new things.
Yeah, wonderful. I think we all certainly missed some parts of reInvent in person in Las Vegas, but I take a lot of pride in knowing that there's no line for my personal bathroom here whenever I want to go use that. So, certainly a silver lining. But so a very exciting journey, lots of lessons there. But I think the gem in today's talk is going to be a little bit about the specifics around utilization of analytics, AI, and ML. Where is Vanguard at today with implementing functionality in this space, and where does AWS tie in there?
Well, I'll speak from what I'm responsible for in AIML. As I mentioned before, excuse me, I support our new telephony phone systems. Vanguard has probably over 3,000 highly skilled trained phone representatives. Our goal is when a phone call comes in, to be able to meet that client's needs, hopefully before they talk to a client, phone representative. But if a client does connect with a person at Vanguard, they have a great experience. Vanguard would love for everybody to be able to be serviced on the web, but we have a lot of complicated relationships, and people have a lot of complicated situations that they're dealing with. So we are using, we're about to go live with Lex. So you come in, you're doing a change of ownership. It's complicated. It could be for many life events. We want the client to be able to mention these events. Lex understands them, and going to the right representative that can handle their complicated situation versus transferring them all over the company. Oh, you called me about, a new birth. I'm not the right person. Go over here. We're finding that, and very, very successful. We're working with AWS people to help us tune the bots, and that's working out really well. And then we'll be leveraging Comprehend so that we can identify as we feed more information. Comprehend can say, are you calling for this? Or help us identify why the client's calling and how did the call go. So we're in the beginning stages of that. And we also use SageMaker very heavily for the e-commerce apps that I support. We are creating models to identify as the client comes in, we are able to maybe proactively help the client out or proactively push information to our internal representatives. Are you calling about this? Can I help you with that? Those types of things. And those models are identifying people who might have a propensity for this product, or might be calling about a piece of paperwork, or they've called 27 times in the last 10 minutes. Comprehend might let us know they might not all be that happy.
Certainly, and as a consumer or someone that signs up and has to call in and receive support in various aspects of my life, I think this is a very salient sort of point, right? You could probably bubble this all down to one variable, which is time to value, right? I'm a consumer. I've got a question. I have an inquiry. I need something done. with a given service provider. And really, the thing that matters most to me is how can I do that as quickly and painlessly as possible. And what it really sounds like is if you can avoid the cost of a call altogether by surfacing that automatically, well, that would be really wonderful, right? But if there is a call, how can we avoid those phone transfers and hops that just take up time, people waiting on phone lines, probably mucks up the queue times as well. All around, just not a great experience. So using machine learning and entity detection with services like Comprehend or performing inference with services like SageMaker, it enables you to more quickly tie answers and knowledge or representatives who can provide those answers to the customers that are calling in. And again, you don't have to focus on some of the hairy bits of machine learning there. You can focus on making sure that you're more easily getting the data and answers in your customers' hands more quickly, right?
Correct. And as I mentioned before, one of the ways we're finding this successful is to build um, proof of concepts or very small use cases, and then keep building on the use cases. So n- no one's at lack of ideas on how to serve our clients better, but it can get overwhelming. Oh, we should do this, we should do that, we should do this. It's okay, let's focus on small and then getting bigger because we're getting smart on technology at the same time and ensuring that we have it set up correctly.
Certainly, and any world where you have this plethora of options that features you're excited to build that you're willing to jump at and not pulling your hair out over some of the low level infrastructure problems is certainly an exciting and good place to be. But as a tie into these machine learning analytics powered features that we just spoke about, um, we can't we can't ignore data, right? Being able to process that data, store that data, and do so in a compliant fashion obviously immensely important. You spoke about the need to achieve compliance, and there's various types of compliance. But with respect to the system we just talked about for AI and ML and telephony, um, how did AWS services help there? What was the journey to achieving compliance with your move to the cloud?
How AWS helped us is how I mentioned before. They really helped us build the solid platform. And what do I mean by that? That's such a high level, like world hunger is a bad thing statement. Uh, okay, S3 buckets. Well, what do you want us to put in each? I remember they were like, oh, you put your data in S3 buckets. We're all like, okay, everything go in one? I mean, that's how clueless we were. It was like, okay, how do you want us to separate them out? So AWS architects um, really helped us get smart saying, okay, let's understand sort of, we're a DB2 shop, our record keeping and such is there. How are we going to take that and feed it into our AWS lake? Because we're still, the gold, a lot of gold copy is still in DB2, and we want to make sure those jobs stream every night. Some of it has to stream every 15 minutes, and eventually real time. So we got that solid foundation of as you build this information into your S3 buckets, lay out your S3 buckets this way, and use this technology to get the data over there. And we've gotten so much smarter. I mean, when we first started, we were all writing Spark. Now we have a really robust change data capture, jobs that run, and the ultimate is all our information will eventually be in the cloud in Dynamo. So I don't, I can retire all those jobs that run at night or every 15 minutes. So AWS really helped us understand that of this is how you lay out your lake, lessons learned, that they've learned with other companies that they've supported, and they were there every step of the journey and helping us get smarter each time. So we didn't make. I'm not saying we didn't make any mistakes, but we didn't make these giant mistakes. We had to step back and say, okay, we've spent this long learning the lake. No, no, now we got to redo it, type of thing. Making sure Ilya was one of our main architects, and making sure we had a really robust continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline, CI/CD, so we didn't have this Python code and say, we got it. It's like, okay, they helped us build the pipeline so that the code that we created was robust, tested, secure. A lot of automation. That was the new memory muscle of I can only go fast if I automate. I can't go fast if it's all going to be manual.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch there
Oh,
with the
sorry.
no, 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 totally fine. Because it was just the question I had up in my head. I was going to ask about lessons learned, but it feels like you mentioned so many salient ones there, and it's really just sometimes it's just expectations, right? The expectation shift from you're going to do this massive earth-shattering deploy where you go from V1 or old system to new system is really only going to hold you back, right? There's incremental gains, incremental wins, and part of this sort of agile development style and enabling your organization to move quickly is experimenting. With experimenting, you can have a goal in sight, you can have strategic wins, and there's going to be some challenges along the way. You may have to re-architect, but that is a net improvement over this. The meteor striking the planet and the world has changed atomically overnight, because that's often very difficult to chase. We heard a lot before about, you spoke about Ilya, one of the solutions architects you work closely with from AWS. We heard that as one of the key takeaways prior. We have just a few moments left, but if there was any other key takeaways to folks that could be earlier on in their journey in migrating either analytic systems or anything you've worked with in recent years at Vanguard, what advice would you give to people?
My advice would be, I'm going to repeat, work very closely with your AWS solutions architect. Ilya's fantastic. We have Raphael. Our whole team's fantastic from AWS. Really work closely with them. And B, small increments, just have a solid foundation. And the last lesson learned, I'm going to joke, but all the books that talk about agile use cases, you learn from your mistakes. You definitely do. I never learned how fast paced the cloud world was. I should write a book about it. Is like, you were so used to, oh, we've got an upgrade. Okay, we'll do the upgrade. And 6 months later, you have it in. Those upgrades are coming at you like every month, and you're like, oh my goodness. And you're able to do it. You don't realize how fast you can do it. I did not realize how much change there is, but it's for the good. And that's what's nice. You're so used to saying, "Whoa, I can't handle all these upgrades," but you can. But boy, do they come faster than what you're used to.
Certainly so. I've been a customer of AWS, and now here helping other developers, just like you and your team, to be able to utilize all of it. It can certainly be a lot to digest. But again, to sort of just double down on your point of working closely with the solutions architects and AWS staff, they are going to be extremely clued in and tuned into exactly what launches may be most effective for solving your problems. And so don't think that you have to boil the ocean and read every launch blog post that ever comes out. That's a big part of what the partnership is, to be
That's
able
right.
to more effectively point you at the right direction of the right tool that'll give you the most bang for your buck or solve a particular problem. Awesome. Well, unfortunately, Denise, we're out of time. I've had a blast. I wish we could talk a little bit more. I know we had some stuff we didn't get to, unfortunately. But again, Denise Murphy, head of retail distribution, channel technology solutions at the Vanguard Group, here for the Voice of the Customer session. We have some more sessions coming up right after this, so stick around, and we'll be right back. Thanks
Thank you
again.
very much. Bye bye.